we're a little ahead of the game. We're up to the two dots on Mem on Aleph. Hanu b'nei Girano. We're discussing that a halacha of bringing outside the chum. If they bring something outside the chum, you're not able to use it. And with machlokes, whether they bring it for another Jew, whether you can use it, or even if they bring it for another Jew, you can't use it. So just the halacha l'maisa the gemaisa that happened. Anu b'nei Girano, the gozlei asa b'yant v'sheni. These people used to make chuppahs, and for the chuppahs they used to use adasim. So you had these goyim, they would cut the adasim, they brought them in. L'orta shari l'ravina, l'orche ravuna, he permitted them to go ahead and smell them. L'orta shari l'ravina, they brought in the evening, and shari l'ravina l'orche bei l'altar, immediately. You didn't have to wait. The share of Kadesh Yasu, you didn't have to wait at all. He just said, go ahead and smell it. So Amalei Rava bar Tachlif l'ravina, should asa because they're not b'nei Torah, they'll learn from that. If they were b'nei Torah, would it be permitted to go ahead and be nene from an action before Kadesh Yasu? Would that be possible that a person could possibly have use of something before? But one of the hallmarks of Hilchos Shabbos is this Hilchos Shabbos. You cannot have anah until the shear that amount it takes to do that. So, for example, if you hot water, you'd have to wait till Kadesh Yechamu, the shear to go ahead and heat up the water nach Shabbos. Bishul, right? If someone cooks, you'd wait the shear after Shabbos, the shear that takes Kadesh Yevashlu. So over here we're saying the same thing. That you have to wait the shear to go ahead. Machlokes, what does it mean to cut it or to go ahead and travel to the tree and cut it? Exactly what the time span is. Machlokes, Rashi and Tosfos. And you need the share again of Kadesh Yasu. It's not enough. You can't go ahead and have a no and smell it right away. You would have to go ahead and wait. So in other words, that Rabbi permitted an altar in the evening of Shabbos to go ahead and smell it without Kadesh Yasu. It was the incorrect thing to do. Now, Rav Dostoi said in the Mishnah, discussing the matbei of the nusach of Shmona Esrei on Rosh Hashanah. He said, what do you say? So going back to the Mishnah, he said something very interesting. He said, so he mentioned that on Rosh. You always wonder, we don't bench the Chodesh, right? You're not Mavorach Chodesh Tishrei. Automatically, Tishrei, we know, is Rosh Chodesh. So do we mention on Rosh Hashanah, do we mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? So he did. He felt that you have to, the feeler, you have to mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah. That was his lashon. He said, Hashem strengthened me as Yom Rosh Chodesh Hazeh, im hayom im l'machar. Again, like he was mesupik, whether it's today or tomorrow. And the next day he says, Hachlitzenu im hayom im amish. It was today or yesterday. The Chachamim were not moided to this. The Chachamim were not moided to this. So we're up to the two dots on Mem and Aleph, the two dots. It says, Rav Doisa says, so you have to mention, he said two things, guys. One, you have to mention Rosh Chodesh, and two, you have to make a condition, whether today or tomorrow and yesterday, right? He mentioned two things, Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah, and mentioning the day and tomorrow. So it says the Gemara, Amar Rabba, ki avina be Rav Huna, when I was by the house of Rav Huna, he asked us, Mahu lehaskir shel Rosh Chodesh b'Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, do you mention Rosh Chodesh? In the davening, do you mention Rosh Chodesh? Kivin, what's the svara? Kivin the chalukim b'musafim, since you bring two separate carbon musaf, one for Rosh Chodesh and one for Rosh Hashanah, therefore each one would have its own tefillah. Aminon. By Dilma, or perhaps Zikaron Echa Oila Lakan Lakan. The Lashon Zikaron would go ahead and apply to both Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah. Rashi brings beautifully, guys. Rashi Zichrein Echa go up. Es Yom HaZikaron Hazeh. The Rachmana carries Zikaron. The Chsiv Zichrein Trua. So that's of course what we're going to say tomorrow or tonight. Rosh Chodesh Nami Chsiv. So we see Rosh Chodesh is also called Zikaron. So when you say Yom Zikaron, Nichlal included in that is Rosh Chodesh. So it's unnecessary to say. So the two stadim. On one side, what you have the separate kabbanis. Since the separate kabbanis, maybe you go ahead and you mask it. Atzmam, you mention them separately. Or do we say no? Do we say the fact that what? That they're both called Zikaron, one is oil for both Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Chodesh. It says, Amalon, so he told us, Tinisua, Reb Daisa, man, he's going to bring a right from our Mishnah. Right? And what does he say? He says, Hachlitzenu, and he mentions Rosh Chodesh, and my love, and it says, and the chula is the most important thing. Right? So my lav lahaskir that the chachamim weren't maskim. They didn't agree mentioning Rosh Chodesh shall be placed yeshayla. You don't mention Rosh Chodesh. But again, he said two things. Correct? He said Rosh Chodesh, and in addition, he said you mentioned Hayom Machor or Hayom and Amash or today and yesterday, right? So he said one, he said Rosh Chodesh, and two, he said Tanai. So the Gemara says, "My lav lahaskir, let's be placed yeshayla that you don't mention." It says loy moed loy lachamim means lahasnois. You don't have to say if Rosh Hashanah is today or tomorrow, or if it's tomorrow and it wasn't yesterday, right? You don't have to say that. But einachi nami, you could have to say Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah. So you can't be placed at the Shaila from here. Because the MSC said two things, and the Hoyd L'Chachamim can be going on the latter rather than the former. And therefore you can't be placed at the Shaila. Hachanami mistarba to say that they're disagreeing on lahasnois, they're agreeing on part B. Every Rosh Chodesh of the whole year, he mentioned, right? He would go ahead and mention. What would he mention? Is it you mentioned Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Chodesh? Of course you mentioned Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Chodesh, correct? You should. But he would say whether Rosh Chodesh is today or tomorrow. Right? If it's speaking about part B, again, guys, the easiest way to remember this. Rabbi said two things. He said A and B. We want to use A to be pushed to Shiloh, right? And the answer is when it says Lo Hodot L'Chomim, it doesn't mean on part A, it means on part B. And so too, he did all the Rosh Chodesh of the years. Not only on Rosh Hashanah, he went ahead and he did the rest of the days of the year. Now, what part A and part B can there be? There's no part A. On Rosh Chodesh during the year, it's only Rosh Chodesh. It's not Rosh Hashanah. So there isn't part A. What did he do? He did part B. He would mention on Rosh Chodesh whether it was today or yesterday. So we're being a raya on Rosh Hashanah when the Chacham were Maida, they weren't Maida to part B. Because part A, clearly what? Does not apply over here. If he mentioned mentioning Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Chodesh, why wouldn't the Chacham go ahead and agree with that? Of course you mentioned Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Chodesh. So Elo, you have a raya, when the Chacham didn't agree, they didn't agree with the second part, this part of making conditional days, this day and that day. They didn't agree with that. But in Achinami, Kenzain, they agreed that on Rosh Hashanah, you would mention Rosh Chodesh. So we weren't placed at the Shaila yet. We weren't placed at the Shaila, yes or no. Velamai lahasnos, so now, Velamai, they weren't moidel lahasnos by this dinwad of making a Tanai. Lamoli leflugi bekarti. So then, why do you have to mention two cases? You mentioned the Tanai by Rosh Hashanah, and you mentioned the Tanai by Rosh Chodesh. Why would you have to mention both? Says the Tzricha, you got to mention both. Tiashmina Rosh Hashanah, Havamina, Bahai Kami Rabbanan Deloy. You should do Asi Lezuzei Bey. Now it's us to go ahead and do Malacha. So if you're going to mention, if today what, guys? Whether today was Kodesh and that's Choil. So since there's an Islam Malacha, the Chachamim weren't Maida. You're going to call one day Choil, even though they held one day as Choil. You can hold one day as Choil, but you can do Misalzel. You can go ahead. On an Islam Malacha, you may come to do Malacha on a day that you can't do Malacha. Right? However, that's only by Rosh Hashanah. That's only by Rosh Hashanah. Aval b'Rosh Chodashim shall call Hashanah Kula, where in fact you could do Malacha, Memanim Shach. Whether Rosh Chodesh was the 30th day or the 31st day, you could do Malacha. That you could mention it. And if you only tell me by Rosh Chodesh that you can't mention it, then you will know Rosh Hashanah. Why? By Rosh Hashanah, where in fact it's Asa Malacha, and you may come to me Mizalzel, maybe Reb Dois is Moedel to Rabbanon that you don't make the condition of mentioning Hayoim and Choyel, because of what is some malacha. So Kamash Malon, now what? Sricha tell me that in both venues he goes ahead right and he agrees. Okay, so far we weren't pushing anything, right? We had a shaila. Do you mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? Right? We weren't pushing the shaila. We tried to be pushing from our Mishnah, and we said Rabbi Dosa said two din in the Mishnah, and we all proved is that what that the Chamor Maida on the latter din, the din of making a Tanai of saying today or tomorrow or tomorrow and yesterday, right? But regarding the din, that not. Meisive, guys, can you believe this next line of Gemara? Meisive, Rosh Chodesh Shechaliyas b'Shabbos. You can't make this up, right? What? You got over 2,700 blot Gemara. You have over 2,700 blot Gemara in Shas. What's the chance of this happening?
Zero.
It's unbelievable, right? You can't make this up.
When you said mention Rosh Chodesh, where exactly are you mentioning it in the davening? When you say
Don't
mention
put it in.
Anybody can stick it in anywhere.
No.
Yeah, but it's in the matzah.
Kadesh Yisrael, Vazman, and Rosh Chodesh. You put it in. It'll be in one of the brachas. You don't just throw it in.
Okay.
We mentioned the carbon. In Musaf, we mention it.
In the nusach of Yom Zikaron Hazeh, Yom Rosh Chodesh Hazeh, Yom Shabbos Hazeh. It'll be in there. Okay, so now, can you? Isn't this amazing, guys? No, amazing. I looked at this today. I said, I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. Meisvei Rosh Chodesh Shechaliyas b'Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh that falls on Shabbos. Beis Shammai Yoimrim Mispalel Eser. Now there are on Rosh Hashanah we have nine brachas, right? There's the 3 in the beginning and the 3 in the end that everyone we say all the time, and we add Malchonis, Sechroisus, and Shayfreis. Good. Beis Shammai says there should be 10, right? There's 10. There's the 10th one because we're going to mention Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos separately. But still, Mispalel Tisha, you're still Mispalel 9. You still daven 9. You know, if you look at Rashi says Mispalel Eser, Sholesh Rishayna. The first 3, right? We say Avos and Michais Amesim and Kedushas Hashem. Gimel Achroinis, Avoida, Haida, and Shalom. V'shel Shabbos b'fnei Atzma. Right, that's Hari Sheva 7. Shabbos by itself. The Kedushas Hayoim and Yom Tif Koilel im Malchuyos. That's going to be included in Malchuyos. Hari Shmoina, and now Zechroinus is 9. B'Shayfreis is 10. So he's going to say Shabbos by himself and include B'Koilel Yom Tif. Guys, important. B'Koilel Yom Tif in the bracha of Malchuyos. Still, I'm Mispalel Tisha. No, you still say 9. 3, 3, and 3. The Koilel Shabbos Yontiv bebracha achas. We put that in one bracha. The Chosim Mekadesh Shabbos V'Yisrael B'Yom HaZikaron. That's what we said. That's what we do. Okay. Now, if you're going to tell me, listen to beautiful kasha. If you're going to tell me that Rosh Chodesh you mentioned separately, so light Beis Shammai, fellas, you should have 11 brachas, not 10. Says the Gemara. The Im Isa that Beis Shammai says. You're going to go ahead and say Rosh Chodesh separate, right? It's a bracha by itself on Rosh Hashanah. Achas esrim miboile. You know, the guys, 3, Shabbos, 3 is 9, Shabbos 10, and Rosh Chodesh 11. Ela must be that we hold you don't mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah. In other words, Rosh Hashanah itself is Rosh Chodesh. And there's no need to mention it. That would make sense. Says the Gemara, Amid Beis, Reb Zera says Reb Zera, Shiny Rosh Chodesh, Mitoich Shekoilel L'Shachris V'Arvis. Since in Shachris V'Arvis you don't say Rosh Chodesh by itself, you say it's Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh are together. Koilel Nami B'Musafim. It's also Koilel B'Musafim. So even if you're going to mention Rosh Chodesh, guys, watch. Look at me, fellas. What's the Gemara Shaila? Whether you say Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah separately. So we have a kasha. If you're going to say Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah separately, then you should have 11 brachas. The 3, and 3, the 9. Shabbos is 10, and Rosh Chodesh is 11. Good? And for the Gemara, when you daven Shachris and Ma'ariv without Musaf, Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh are together. So the Gemara says, really, if it was just because of Rosh Hashanah, you would say a separate bracha. Because Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Chodesh are separate. You would say it. That you're not saying a separate bracha is because Shabbos incorporates the Rosh Chodesh. Shabbos takes it in. Since Shabbos takes the Rosh Chodesh in, it's unnecessary to say it. So that's the Gemara's teretz. Amar Rabbi Zera, Ve'imisa, you want to know why not 11 brachas? Shiny Rosh Chodesh, mitoich shekoil l'shachris. Since Rosh Chodesh is included by Shachris, with Shabbos, the Arvis, and it's included by Ma'ariv, by Shabbos, we're going to include it there. Koil nami b'musafim, so by Musaf as well. The Shabbos part will include it, just like the Shabbos part includes it by Shachris, and the Shabbos part, this is what we're going to say tonight, includes it by Ma'ariv. It's all included by Musaf. Fred the Gemara, Miyas le B'Shamai Koilel. Does B'Shamai hold that is Koilel? In other words, that Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. Avatanya Rosh Chodesh Shechalias B'Shabbos B'Shamai Oimrim Mispal Shmoina. Again, usually we say 7 brachas, guys. Usually, now when Rosh Chodesh was on Shabbos, we're going to make 8. Why? Because Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos are separate. So you see, how can you answer up? You don't have 11 on Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos because Shabbos Rosh Chodesh is included in Shabbos. When you have a regular Rosh Chodesh that falls on Shabbos, you're going to make it separate bracha. So it's not kailul. And that Gemara says kasha. It's good kasha. The bottom line is we weren't pressured to Shaila whether, again, according to the Gemara, whether we do or we don't. The Gemara will be pressured in a second, but from the Gemara here we're not. Okay, says Gemara whether you go ahead and say Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos together when Rosh Chodesh falls down on Shabbos, guys. Whether you're going to say Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos together, that's a machlokes tanoim. We of course say it together. We of course are koiled it, right? We of course are koiled it. But again, this is machlokes tanoim. The Tanya, Shabbos shechal yes b'Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos that falls down on Rosh Chodesh, oy b'chol shalmoi or chol shalmoi, Arvis, Shachris u'mincha, mispalu kidarko sheva. You have the 3 beginning, 3 end, and then the bracha of the moed in the middle. You say Yalav Yavai in the bracha of Ritzei. Come on in Beitza. Say it in Moedim. If you don't say Yalav Yavai, Machzirin. Again, we'll see the halachas. We learned it earlier. It depends if you finish Manas, you didn't finish Manas. Where you go back to, where you don't go back to. Machzirin I say, Uva Musafim, and in Musaf, right? Maskil b'shal Shabbos. You begin the bracha of what? The Sita Lanu, that's the beginning of Shabbos. That's you begin of Shabbos. U'Mesayim, and you finish Bishel Shabbos. You finish Mekadosh Shabbos. V'Omer Kedushas Hayom be'emtza. And in the what? By Musaf, you're going to say Kedushas Hayom. You're going to mention Rosh Chodesh in the middle. Now that's only by Musaf, not by Ma'ariv, not by Shachris, and not by Ma'ariv. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Shmuel ben Oshel, Rabbi Nechem, Kol Mokim Shezakel Sheva. Anytime you say 7 brachas, 3 in the beginning, 3 in the end, and 1 in the middle, Maskla b'shal Shabbos, you begin with Shabbos, U'Mesai b'shal Shabbos, Mechadis Yisrael, V'Omer Kedushas Hayom be'emtza. Even by what? Even by Shachris, and even by what? By so whether you're koil or not is machlokes. Like the first Tana Kama, you're not koil, right? Only by Musaf. Like this, you are koil. You are koil. So again, the teretz that we gave previously, according to Beit Shammai, why you don't say 11 is because of Kailel would depend upon this machlekes tanoim. So the bottom line is, my Havila, the bottom line, my Havila, what's the bottom line? Do you mention Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah or not? So Amrav Chisda, Zikaron Echad Oilala Lekan Lekan, the Zikaron that we mentioned on the previous daf, Zikaron La'olam that it says by Rosh Chodesh, and Yomi Zikaron that we say by Rosh Hashanah, it includes both. That's the halacha. That's why you know why tonight you're only going to say Yom Zikaron. You're not going to mention Rosh Chodesh. Why? Because that Yom Zikaron counts for both. It counts for both. I just can't believe we're doing this Gemara today. It's just like I don't remember any time we've had mentioning of it, but to the extent of mentioning and the halacha l'maisa of this, I don't remember in 27 years.
The odds are crazy. I want to know the odds.
Huh?
I want to know the odds of this day happening and the stuff going on.
I'll let you speak to my bookie. I'll let you speak to my bookie. He'll tell you the odds. Okay. V'omar Rabba ki avina be Rav Huna iboilon mahu. No, another shaila. Another shaila we asked. V'omar Rabba ki avina be Rabba iboilon mahu loimer zman b'Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippurim. Do you make a shechiyanu? Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Do you make a shechiyanu? Another halacha l'maisa to shaila. You make a shechiyanu on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The answer is you do. The answer is you do, but not why. Okay? Says the Gemara. Kivin demizman lizman asi aminon. Since it comes from time to time, shechiyanu that we reach this time, you say it. Dilma kivin loy ikri regalim loy aminon. Since they're not called regalim, we don't say it. Now regalim, the Indian of shechiyanu is an Indian of simcha, fellas. Shechiyanu, you reach the time of simcha. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur are very holy days and very important days. I would not call them Yemei Simcha, correct? I won't call them Yemei Simcha. So Memela, that's the Hezbollah. The Teres Chaim says that's the Hezbollah of the Gemara's sad not to say it, because there is no Simcha associated with these days. So the tzad out, you're not going to say it. Very interesting.
You do say Moedim l'Simcha, but Titei Lana Hashem l'Chein B'Yav Moedim l'Simcha.
Okay, again, no, he's given Moedim l'Simcha, but this is not this the Moedim. Right?
Why did we say that in Shemini Esrei then? If there's not a
again, certainly there's no din of, there's no. First of all, weiter. Anyway, he asked the Shaila. They asked the Shaila, and they didn't know, and Rav Huda didn't know. Kiyasa be Rav Yehuda. When it came to Rav Yehuda, Ama ana akor chadatan mami amin izman. When I get my new pumpkin, my new gourd from year to year, I say it. So Memela, of course you can say it by Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Just like you say it on the new fruit that you get from yearly, so you say it there as well. So Amalei, Rishus like Kami Boili, to say the bracha as a Rishus, that is not a Shaila, of course I can. Ki Kami Boili Chayva. I want to know if there's a mitzvah, if there's a chalois of a mitzvah of making the bracha Shechiyanu on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Again, to say the bracha to say the bracha, so Amalei, so Rabbi Shmuel, so Rabbi Yomi said, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shavayu, Ein oim zman el b'shalosh regalim. You only say zman by the shalosh regalim. You don't say what by Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Don't leave yet, okay? Rabbi Shmuel, you don't say it. Meisivei, a pasuk in Koheles, tein chelik l'shiva, give a portion of 7. The gam l'shmoina, and also 8. What does that mean? Shiva is elu zayin yemei breishis. So zayin yemei breishis culminates in Shabbos. So by keeping Shabbos, we're giving a chelik to Hashem. Shmoina elu ches yemei mila. By being kind of mitzvah mila, we're giving a chelik to Hashem. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Shiva elu shiva yemei Pesach. Shmoina elu shmoina yemei Achag, including Shmini Atzeres. Ukashu Omer v'gam, and when it says v'gam, l'rabbeis Atzeres. For Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So that's, you're including all the Moyadim. Now, what are you including them in? All these things, what are you including them in? So my lav lizman does not mean the commonality between them is the bracha of Shechiyanu. So we can be paishet the Shaila that in fact what? You do say a Shechiyanu by Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Like the bracha, not the bracha Shechiyanu, but it means the bracha of Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim. We make the bracha of Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim, we include a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. It says, Mahochinami b'staber to say that's the pshat. The Isak right Zman, because if you can think it's speaking about Shechiyanu, Zman kol shiva miyika. How many 7 days you're going to make a Shechiyanu? So Bishlein, you're telling me that what it's a din in Mekadesh Yisrael Vazmanim, it's the lashon of tefillah, which we do say for 7 days. It makes sense. That's pshat. But if you're going to tell me it's the Shechiyanu, you don't make a Shechiyanu for 7 days. It says Mahalakash, that's not a problem. I'll work it out. The Elam Mevarach Idna Mevarach Lamacha. Guess what? If you don't make it this day, you'll make it the next day. If you don't make it the next day, you'll Yamurcha. Feg the Marmi Kamakam being Kais, Luchar and a bracha, you need a Kais. Rashi brings, they don't have so much wine. Rashi brings, maybe the first day of Yot, if they had wine. Think about it, what we have, it's amazing. So it's you didn't have wine. You need a cup of wine to make the shechianu. Elamah, so it can't be going on the wine. Lem Messiah le Rav Nachman. The Rav Nachman zman omru afilu b'shuk without wine. In other words, let's bring a raya. You can make the shechianu not on a kais. When we say that, it means 7 days of shechianu. Holy kasha. Diklo kais could be that you did end up getting a kais. Hateinachat seres. That's very good. What by Shavuos for Rosh Hashanah. Yomi Kippurim heki ovid. What are you going to do? How can you make a bracha on a kais on Yom Kippur? If you're going to make the bracha on the kais, v'shasile, you can't do it because kivin the amar zman. Once you said zman, kiblo leha, you makabel yontif v'asale. It's also to drink. So in other words, obviously it can't be going on the kais. It must be a good raya, guys. It's Rav Nachman that you don't need a kais. It must be a raya Rav Nachman. You don't need a kais, or else I can say zman. Now, how do you know that once you said zman that you're out of bounds, that you finished? The Amalei of Yomi Rav Rav one day he made. I remember Gemara in Brachas. It was a cloudy day, and they were Makabel Shabbos early. Gemara in that's probably Chav Zayin Chav Es in Tfilas Shachar. Now, he said to him, Miba Dalta. After you went and Makabel Shabbos, were you bottled from Melacha? Did you stop doing work? But Amalei Rav said, in Badilna. So what do you see? Once you Makabel, even though it's earlier, you're finished. So who adin, if you make the bracha of zman on you make the bracha, you're finished. So who's going to drink the wine? So Fred Gemara, so I got an eitzah, live bracha lecha, make the bracha, and leave it there. Says Gemara, I'm a varach tzar shiyitain. He has to taste something. Says Gemara, leisvei liyanuka, go ahead and give it to a kid. Says Gemara, les hilchasa kravacha. Rashi says he doesn't know what his ravacha is. Right? The ravacha says you can give it to a kid. Why can't you give it to a kid? And this is put down la halacha. Maybe you'll come to think that you're able to drink on Yom Kippur. Maybe you'll come to think you're able to drink on Yom Kippur. The bottom line is my havila. So the bottom line is, do you say zman by Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur or not? Shari Rabbanu l'Rav Yemar Saba Kamed Rav Chisda b'Mayla Yuma de Rosh Hashanah on Erev Rosh Hashanah. I'm actually can't make this up. He said to him on Erev Rosh Hashanah, Amalei Zil Chazi Heichiravid Uvda. Go see what they do in the street. Go see what they do. Come back and tell me. So Amalei, the lavia l'retiva rafsalei beduchte. Someone picks up a wet branch, obviously needs the spot because you don't burn the wet branch. It's obvious not to go ahead and burn. So what's the reason you pick it up? So if Rashi says the bottom line, you do a shetzar from kovel. Since you don't need it, notice when he saw him there, he said, obviously you came here for a reason. Like you pick up a log, you came here for a reason. Again, the Gemara has funny ways of describing things. So isolate Kasa the Chamra, they brought him a kais to Kaddish. He made Kiddush from his man. And he said Shechianu on Erev Rosh Hashanah, he said Shechianu on the kais. The Hilchasa im Zman be Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. You say Zman on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The Hilchas is Zman Omru Afilu B'Shuk, and you don't need a kais. So obviously on Rosh Hashanah you do make it on a kais, and Yom Kippur you do not make it on a kais. Okay, I felt that it's an opportune time. I chanced upon a very very geschmacka orach laner, and I'm going to post it, and I think it's kedai to go through to give us a little feel for the day, a special feel for the day. So let's see what we got over here. Okay, let me go.
Rabbi, I just posted that Mincha by Rutkin is 6:25, not 6:40. I don't know if you want
What?
to. Mincha by Rutkin is 6:25 tomorrow.
6 what?
6:25.
Okay, well, don't worry, we'll be okay.
5:30. Okay.
Guys, look at the second paragraph, where it says the yellow line. He makes the following cheshbon. I'll go through some of it and skip some of it. Omnam b'shana toiva yesh lachkor. Im Rosh Hashanah b'Shabbos, im zeh simin toiv, if that's a good thing. Ubezeh matzanu sheshonim sherois b'yaiser, b'shonim shetoivus b'yaiser. It's a crazy thing. When we find that Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, sometimes it's unbelievable, and sometimes it's not so good. And listen to this cheshbon he makes. Listen to this cheshbon. He goes, the Shnei Shonim Shenechra Beis Hamikdash, Hayirosh Chodesh b'Shabbos. The 2 times the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, that year Rosh Hashanah fell on Shabbos, and he brings the cheshbon. Let's skip his cheshbon. And now going down, B'Shana B'Yoseh Toivos, the next paragraph, Matzana we find that what? Shemechilas Ovin Egel, the go ahead and the forgiveness of the Egel, it's a good thing. The day that year, the Rosh Hashanah fell on Shabbos, Hashem forgave us. V'chein hakamas haMishkan, we put up the Mishkan that year. V'chein shana shenichlos la'aretz. We went ahead and we got into Eretz Yisrael. So he declares, is it a good thing or a bad thing when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbos? The Yubin Zeb Mashal, Sar Echad ba'avodas hamelech chata ba'melech chatzav alav. They got angry at him. Ad ma'oid. And you're going to judge him. He went to ask for people to go ahead and testify on his behalf. You know, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. All these people, they skipped and they went away. They left. Now, he had no one else. He was very distressed. He told his wife everything. His wife went ahead and she went ahead and she went and comforted him. Listen, why are you despondent? I'll come and testify on your behalf. That's what his wife said. And truthfully, that's exactly what happened. She came and testified on his behalf, and he was like with him. Now, V'ach yomim muatim avru v'hine gam sar acher ba'avodas hamelech chat chet sar. He also did a sin. Another guy, Sarish, and now he remembered v'asar bezichro ki zeh zman kotzer shegam chaveroi sadik bedin. He was victorious, so he went ahead and he asked him what happened. He told him his wife went ahead and testified on his behalf. However, the bottom line, Amna hasara achroin hazed, a lot of guy. He was an angry person. V'loy shama, and he did not go ahead and Kiroi avas ukaved ishtai. He didn't go ahead and take care of his wife. He was abusive. Ubechamasoi kam v'hikaisa makais atzarius. He get angry and he was cruel to her and he hit her. Arashe nisharu simoni achsaroisai. The chutzla ayin kol. You could see that the woman was battered. She had black eyes. She was battered. Nonetheless, this woman, she went to testify on his behalf, despite the fact that she was battered. She went. We said, to 1 second, don't open your mouth. He said, Mazel, Mazel, why are you battered? But the schalkal the isha answer kach v'kach kedei lebakesh amasel the isha. She started finding excuses like battered women do. Lo yitzlich biyad. She wasn't successful. Vayan echem min ha'oimdim sham. Vayomer halahem simoni memakas isha achsari. The guy beats his wife. Anyway, the melech got very, very angry, and actually this guy was not very successful. Ubezeh says the Aruch LaNer. Ubezer yispar eich Rosh Hashanah shechal b'Shabbos pa'omim shula tavaisenu. Sometime like the first sar, it's for our health. Upamim shu simin l'ra, and sometimes it's like the second one, like the second guy. Chas v'shalom. Ki Yisrael shechatu kol hashana ba'alis kol hashayfer b'yom adin mitzapim shebet kiyasenu ye'orviv hasatan uzchus hatekiyos yilas hanegar. Stam is like when Rosh Hashanah falls out on during the week. We can be samech on the shofar. The shofar is blown, and that's going to go ahead and mix up the sun, and we're going to go ahead and all we say that the saniguria, the tekiyas will protect us. B'chol zeh when kishachal Rosh Hashanah b'chayil during the week. Aval kishachal b'Shabbos echi matzei lanu schus latzikenu. Who's going to take care of us? We have no wife to come and testify on our behalf. We don't have any shofar. B'yom adin. You know what's going to come and testify on behalf? Shabbos. Shehi bas zugo Yisrael. remember, everything in Ma'aser Bereshis has a bat zug. Shabbos is an odd number. Who's the zug to Shabbos? Is Yisrael. Kimadam Rabbeinu Zal Bereshis Rabbah. Now that Shabbos is going to come liyoy saneger ba'adenu to testify on our behalf. L'fnei melach malchei amlachim. V'Shabbos yoytza ubal l'fnei kisei kvoidai kidichsiv beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oisi li'olam. That's a ois. It comes. U'b'schushe Yisrael mishamrim HaShabbos karoi HaKadosh Baruch Hu moichel avonaseihem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu moichel our sins. Aval kol ze dafka kol zman she Yisrael mekayim es Shabbos. Aval kashe'em mishamram es pas zugam. We don't take care of our mate karoi. Ava adarabba mechalon es kavod abrabim. Eich tase Shabbos saneger. How could Shabbos possibly be a defendant? Lahatzdik mishpatenu halei tase kateger. It's going to become a teger. It's going to become abused. Shabbos is abused. It's going to come in front of us, and Hashem is going to say, "You're going ahead and testifying on the behalf. Look what he did to you. He abused you. He didn't keep you." V'alkein kishur mizal asul litkoya b'Shabbos havi kidei laharchik michil Shabbos mishum gezeira shema yavirenu dalaramis b'shusarabim. And therefore, Chazal said, "You know why you don't blow on Shabbos? It's kidei laharchik michil Shabbos mishum gezeira." Shema Yavirenu Dalaram Shusarabim. The reason you don't blow is maybe you're going to come and carry for an amis. Avamisha Machal Kol Shana as a Shabbos Betiltel. The whole year you've been Haloi Oz Loi Levad Shloi Nase Sanegel Fanenu. Not only will it not be a Sanegel in front of us, Ela Achre Shloi Irbav of Sutton. The Sutton won't be mixed up because we don't have the Sutton, we don't have the Shaifa, we don't have Shabbos. Shuv tzurichem ligda ledivrei Rabbi Yitzchak kol hashana. We have to worry the years shein toikim b'tchilas Maria in law the seifa. So comes the Aruch Haner and he says such a pelatic of pshat, guys. Such a pelatic thing. He says why some years are good because we kept Shabbos those years. We kept Shabbos, and now when we don't blow the shofar, dafka we don't blow the shofar because of Shabbos, and dafka since we don't blow the shofar because of Shabbos, Shema Yavirenu Abba Amis. Then the oisi beinu beinu comes to go ahead and testify on our behalf. Masha Enkain, when what? When we don't have the shofar, we have Shabbos, and Shabbos is trying to go ahead and testify for us, but Shabbos is the battered wife because we didn't keep it. And the name what? We have no one to protect us, and that's why the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. What an unbelievable piece, no? It's a Aruch Haner. He has what a sefer called Minchas Ani. And I found this in Parshas Ha'azinu. It's the Parshas Ha'azinu. It's a fantastic piece. This year falls on Shabbos. We should all be zeicha to keep Shabbos. We should be zeicha to a ksiv taima, a good ben shiur, a yoim adin. Remember what we spoke about, that today is the day where Mamach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not about us. Yom Kippur is about us. Tomorrow is Hashem's day. Just think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is covered in the world. The fact that the world is in the state that's in, we should feel for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and just and literally cry for the state for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we're guaranteed someone who goes ahead and davens and needs something. In this case over here, we're davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, for his sake, and we need the same thing, guarantees us will be Nenan Tchila. A good ben shiur to all. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of my share.
The ben shiur.
Rabbi, good ben shiur.
Okay, so tomorrow, for people who are able, tomorrow it's 5:30 by Rabbi Rotkin, and might see Yontif. Sunday night will be 9:30.
Yontif.
Thank you.
All the best.
Rabbi Neshama Shav and Aliyah, Rabbi.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. My father's yard site's tonight.
Oh, Shabbat Shalom.